Welcome into the Saints Insider Postgame Show. I'm Zach Ewing, live at the Caesars Superdome after the New Orleans Saints have defeated the Cleveland Browns 35-14 here in NFL Week 11. And quite the turnaround for the Saints. They're back-to-back wins now after 7 straight losses, kind of chapter 3 of this season under interim coach Darren Rizzi, and it continues to go well here. This game was 14-14 entering the fourth quarter. Saints outscored the Browns 21-0 in the final stanza to win 35-14. Pretty remarkable stuff from the New Orleans Saints. 35-14 your final. Leave your comments and questions live here. We're going to show them. Just keep it clean is all we ask, and we'll show as many as we can. My man Spencer is producing. He is going to show those comments. I know I saw one from Stussy just waiting in the queue saying, as soon as I think I'm out, they draw me right back in, or something to that effect, which is pretty accurate for the Saints right now. They lose 7 in a row. You think this season is all over. Back-to-back wins here at the Dome heading into the bye week. We'll talk more about that. Saints are 4-7. I wouldn't say they're quite in the playoff picture yet. You're not going to see their logo on TV when they start talking playoff picture. But another win or two, and they might get back into that column. So before we get started, I want to let you know that the Saints Insider Postgame coverage is brought to you by Tulane Doctors. Now at East Jefferson General Hospital, Tulane Doctors are bringing academic medicine to more patients in new communities. Look for the shield to know the future of medicine is here. Call 504-988-5000 to schedule with any Tulane doctor or visit TulaneDoctors.com. We'll bring on Jim Derry, the host of the Datitude podcast. He'll be our first guest here today on the Saints Postgame Show. Jim's walking over. We got the players' families playing football on the field. It's all happy. It's a party out here. Jim, I actually thought at one point, you and I both picked against the Saints, okay, so full disclosure. I thought at one point the Saints had lost that fumble at the end of the first half. They let the Browns go on a 92-yard touchdown drive to tie the game in the third quarter. I thought they were kind of wilting. I thought the energy was gone. Boy, was I wrong.
Yeah, I don't know that I felt that way, but I don't know that I feel as good about this win as you do. I mean, that's a really bad football team they played today. And not only that, when you start looking at the dominance, and I take nothing away from what the Saints did today. For again, you start 2-7, you're going to go in the tank. You got an interim coach, and he comes in and wins his first 2 games. That is exciting stuff. Well, as exciting as you can get this time of year when you're 4-7. But when you look at the numbers, and there were 916 total yards of offense put on the board, and only 30 more by the Saints, it doesn't exactly inspire me that the fact that, the Saints won this game by 21, that is about as a fake a 21-point win as you possibly can get. However, that being said, at no point in this game, not even after the first few minutes, I mean, when the Saints come out, I'm like, you know what? I think they're going to win this game. So they just played like they were the better team. They were the better team. And, man, how would you like to be a Browns fan right now?
It's pretty dire, man. And we'll talk about Jameis Winston. I actually thought Jameis played a really good game
370 some odd yards.
Yeah, and no turnovers, which is kind of rare for Jameis. He threw a long touchdown pass. You're right, though. It's 473 to 443 in total yards. Saints would have been outgained by 50 yards if it hadn't been for Taysom Hill's 75-yard touchdown.
Don't go there, man.
So Jim and I have been laughing all the way down here. I picked up Taysom Hill to start in fantasy football today because Dalton Kincaid, my normal tight ends on bye. Jim had to face Taysom Hill today.
Yeah, good old Doug Mouton started Taysom Hill because his tight end is off. So he started Taysom Hill.
But the upshot is I'm going to lose anyway.
Yeah, and the upshot is I'm going to lose too. Yeah. So there you go. So nobody cares about our fantasy.
We're bad fantasy football team players, but the Saints may have something. I mean, here's the overarching storyline going into the bye week. Do they have something with Darren Rizzi?
Well, I know what they have something in. People, they're not going to be crying about Derek Carr today, are they? No. I mean, Derek Carr was outstanding. I mean, he simply was outstandanding. And, at one point I remember it was like something along the lines of 16 of 19 or something. You turned to me. One of those was a drop pass, and another one was kind of a throwaway that he was trying to avoid a sack. So I thought Derek Carr was outstanding. Alvin Kamara was outstanding. The offensive line was average, which for them is good. I thought they were okay.
By the way, Eric McCoy returned, which we talked about as a key, and then he left again. Yeah. He didn't play most of the second half, listed with a groin injury, which is what he had been out with. So that's concerning, but probably a good sign that the Saints kept moving the ball after he left the game too.
Yeah, no doubt about it, and they did. And Saldiveri, I was kind of watching him when he got in there, and I thought he played okay. And so the offense as a whole, I thought, did a pretty darn good job. But look, man, that secondary is not nearly as good as they were. They still can't get a decent pass rush. And look, it's better, I guess, in the grand scheme of things. Granderson got a huge sack there towards the end that kind of dampened the Browns' hopes. 11-yard loss when they were, the Browns still had kind of a chance.
Yeah.
That was a big sack right there, I thought. But overall, there's really not a whole lot of pass rush. And they obviously played a team that Nick Chubb's not ready to be in. He's not NFL ready right now, but they don't have a choice.
Yeah, it's funny. We all week, one reason I like the Browns, and I think you did too, is because of the rushing offense possibility of just systemically moving the ball down the field on the Saints. And the first two plays of the day were a 6-yard Nick Chubb run and then a 6-yard Nick Chubb run. And you think, okay, here we go. The Saints have to prove they can stop that. He only had 9 more carries after that in the entire game. I don't think he's fully healthy.
And not only that, their best runs after those two were Jerome Ford.
Yes.
So Jerome Ford was the better running back today for sure for the Browns. So, I mean, they got their own issues. They're done anyway. I was really wrong about
their offensive
that
line's
team
no
for
good
sure.
They're offensive line.
They're in a world of hurt, and that's a shame because I think Kevin Stefanski is a really good coach. But back to your answer about Darren Rizzi, I mean, look, you take it wherever you can get it. If you go into the bye now and you're home again the week after,
that's
you're
right.
playing a real team, though, is the only difference. And I know the Rams aren't a great team, but they're a good team. Wouldn't call them great good. Now, their receiving core is much better than anything the Saints have faced the past few weeks, I would say. You could say Atlanta rivals that, I guess. But the way they're playing football right now, and they have a very balanced offense. So if the Saints gave up 400 and something yards to the Browns today, they're going to have to clean that up to have a chance to beat the Rams in 2 weeks.
And we'll talk more about that as we go. Much more to come on this game. But I agree with you. And we got a comment from Brian Pearson, a question: do the Saints have a chance to make the playoffs? Well, look, The Athletic has a model. New York Times Athletic has a playoff percentage model. They had them at 2% entering the day. If you listen to the Datitude podcast, Jim was quite, what's the word?
Vocal?
You were well. You're always vocal, but you were very upfront in saying the Saints have a 0% chance of making the playoffs. I will say this: I wouldn't start worrying about the playoffs unless they beat the Rams.
Playoffs.
If the Saints beat the Rams, number one, that gives you a head-to-head over another team that's going to be angling for that final wild card in the Rams. You have another game against a team that may be angling for the final wild card a couple weeks after that in the Commanders. I think at 5-7, it's fair to kind of start to look at that. If you don't beat the Rams, you're 4-8. It's probably over.
Look, I mean, if you want to go mathematically, Brian, sure, the Saints have a chance to make the playoffs, but so do the Cleveland Browns mathematically. Realistically, I still say it's 0.0. I don't think there's any scenario the rest of this year that plays out where realistically the Saints have a chance to make the playoffs. Yeah. I mean, I hope I'm wrong. I'd love to be wrong. I'd love to sit here and after what game are we playing, the Giants at home? Whatever game that is in right around Christmas time.
Raiders at home.
That's here. Raiders?
Raiders is the last home game, yeah.
Okay, so I'd love to stand here after the Raiders game and you just give it to me for 20 minutes until Jeff Duncan comes walking over here, and I'll take it and laugh. But, I mean, realistically, and that's what I am. I'm a realist. I think it's 0.0.
I mean, so yeah, do they have a chance? I guess the answer is mathematically yes. Realistically, I would still say give it a couple more weeks. If they beat the Rams, then you can look up and see where they are and see.
Well, if they beat the Rams, I mean, then you have to realistically talk about. So I think it would be different. Now, we talked about before. This was the one thing I will give the Saints, and Mickey didn't want to do it. I'm glad McScale stepped in and said, you got to get rid of Dennis Allen, because one thing it did do is you did it before a long homestand. We talked about it on Datitude, and a month long at home. You got 2 home games, a bye, and then another home game. So it's very rare to have a month long sleeping in your own bed without having to go somewhere. So I think if the Saints thought they had any chance, it was the only chance was to get rid of Dennis Allen. And they are certainly having a spark with Rizzy there as coach. It's obviously different.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt. There's no doubt. Saints have won back-to-back games. We're going to take our first break here on the Saints Insider Postgame Show. We will get visits from the locker room later from Jeff Duncan, Rod Walker, Luke Johnson, Matthew Paris, all our Times-Picayune writers covering the Saints, and they will tell us what the Saints said, give us their reactions to this one, and we will kind of go through the scoring. We'll talk about Taysom Hill's big day and much more right after this on the Saints Insider Postgame Show.
At Tulane Doctors, we know your health can't wait.
So we made booking appointments easier than ever.
Just dial 988-5000 to book with any physician any specialty.
Whether at East Jefferson General Hospital or one of our other locations.
Because your health is our top priority.
And because navigating healthcare should be simple,
Personal.
accessible.
When you see the shield, you'll know. The future of medicine is here.
There's no better place to parlay than Caesars Sportsbook. Parlay Builder gives you all the game day action from all across the league. Multiple games, legs, and props, all in one spot. It's so quick and easy, you can keep your focus on the games and your nachos. Or if you're focusing on one game, remember, you can place your same game parlays live during the action. Caesars Sportsbook, the only sportsbook app with Caesars rewards.
Welcome back to the Saints Insider Postgame Show. Zach Ewing and Jim Derry with you here live from the Caesars Superdome, going through the Saints' 35-14 victory over the Cleveland Browns. Carl O'Donnell says Taysom got 41.52 fantasy points. Is that? I don't think he got quite that in your league.
23 in my league.
Damaging, yeah. Let's go through Taysom's day. It's a good place to start as we go through this one. Taysom Hill had 138 yards rushing on 7 carries. Now, 75 of that came on the touchdown
That'll help
to
your
end the
average.
game. That will certainly help. But even before that, he was like 9 yards a carry.
That'll help your rushing
Yes,
average.
7 carries for 63 yards before that. So 3 touchdowns on the ground. He also caught 8 passes for, what do we have? We have it up on the screen, but 8 passes for
He caught 8 passes?
50 yards. Yeah, a lot of them were short. 8 passes for 50 yards. He also threw 2 passes. One of them was caught by his team. The other was caught by the Browns. He lost a fumble, and he returned a kick for 42 yards.
This is the first time in NFL history a player.
It's like first time since like 1951.
Okay, first time since 1951 a player scored a touchdown, threw a pass,
caught a pass, and threw an interception, all in the same.
And returned the kickoff.
All in the same game.
And returned the kickoff.
And Taysom Hill did that all in the first quarter. Like we've known for a long time in New Orleans.
Different than everybody
this guy's
else.
a unicorn.
It's different than everybody.
But I'll tell you what, man, when he gets running, and his second touchdown was probably the best example of that, Taysom's an absolute truck. Like, he is just not going to go down easy. He's big, he's hard to tackle, and he's really fast, too.
Well, and I know that Cleveland had probably, like, given up at that point when he scored a long touchdown, but still, to show when you're a truck and you have that kind of speed is just so, at his age, I mean, 34 years old will still be doing that and outrunning an entire defense is really, I mean, it's so super impressive to be able to do what he can do.
You know, they come up with all these dumb names for trucks. Like, you got some of the old school ones, the Silverado and the F-150. Who's the Toyota Tacoma? Who's the first going to come out with the Taysom? If I start a car company, my truck's going to be the Taysom, my pickup truck. It's got pickup and it's got power.
Somebody call the Ford family or Elon Musk. I mean,
maybe the Tesla truck. It doesn't have a name, does it? We can call it the Taysom. It's sleek. All right, Stefan says, guys, what you say about the penalties today look way better. Yeah, I mean, you mentioned this crew. This is interesting.
Holding crew.
This crew is very likely to call holding, more likely to call holding than any crew in the NFL. And they did call some holds on the Saints today, but for the most part, I thought they played pretty good.
I got to say that. And then I thought for the most part they were okay. But look, I've been watching football since when I remember being at Tulane Stadium. That's how old I am. So to say that I've never seen something at this stage, I've never seen a defensive holding called on a field goal in my life. I don't even know how you do that.
No, I don't.
So you got to be looking for something.
I need the explanation on that one. I need like one of these officials on Twitter or X.
Yeah, when I go home, I'm gonna go to that play.
Somebody's got to find out.
That's absurd.
I don't even know what you'd be trying to do where you get called for. But in a ball don't lie moment, Dustin Hopkins missed the field goal anyway,
and he didn't just miss it by little.
He missed 2 field goals or 3 field goals today.
And Dustin Hopkins is going to have a house of horrors. I mean, he just doesn't want to kick in the Superdome. If anybody picks up Dustin Hopkins in the future, because I'm assuming he'll get cut.
He missed 2. He only missed 2.
Okay. Well, he missed 3.
He missed 3, but one got
because he missed one and a penalty. He got a chance to kick it, and then he missed it again. But so if anybody picks up Dustin Hopkins, if they play the Saints, they might want to have someone else that week because he doesn't like to kick in here. That's why he got caught.
Look,
it's like a golfer.
It's he's got the
bad
yips, man.
slice
It's
on
like
a certain hole.
He's never coming back to this course again.
I hate number 13. I hate hole 13.
You know, it'd be really funny is if one of the Super Bowl teams coming here in February like has a kicker injury in the conference championship. Dustin Hopkins is out there on the wire looking for a job, and they're better not sign him to kick in the Superdome.
Exactly.
Okay, so here's how this one went down. Go through the scoring summary. Jacques Correa, I hope I'm saying your name right. It says Allen apparently was the problem. Apparently he was. So Taysom got.
I don't know about. Look. I'm not going to give any credit for anything good to Dennis Allen at this point. But here's the deal, okay? Let's be realistic, okay? When Dennis Allen left this team, and by every measure, every means, every account, he should have been fired. There's no question about that.
You lose to Carolina,
but
that's what happened.
When he went out, they didn't have their quarterback. They didn't have they were missing all kinds of players. This injury report, go back and take a look at the injury report for that 3-game stretch where they got blown out by 18 3 games in a row and then lost to Carolina. Again, I'm not giving Dennis Allen any credit. He should have been fired before this year even started. But don't say everything got better when Dennis Allen left because it did though. It did. I mean, come on.
I'm not saying Dennis Allen can't coach or anything. I mean, he won a lot of games, not a lot of games, but he was.
The team from opening day is here, okay, except for a couple of names. Well, in the wide receiver core, but. When you got your quarterback back and you got your starting center back who ended up leaving, it's a big difference. Okay, it's a big difference. But
yeah, we got a question here about Eric McCoy's injury, and I am checking to see if we have.
Probably find out about that in the post-game.
Yeah, I'm checking to see if we have any updates from the post game, and I don't see any right now.
Yeah.
Just, he re-aggravated that groin. Here we go. Darren Rizzi said Eric McCoy tried to gut through his injury and probably could have gone back in if they needed him to, but they decided to play it safe. Sense. Still unclear what the exact issue is. But I would say that's good news if they thought he could go back in a tight game.
And you got a bye week now.
You do have a bye week. You get 14 days here. You play the Rams here December the 1st. So you think he's probably going to be okay. He's going to take a few days off, I'm sure.
Back to Rizzi real quick. I think what I'm going to be looking for is now that you got the bye week, you didn't have any time, right? You fire your coach, and that's one thing about doing it when it's not a bye week. You don't have any time. You just go, right? So the Saints went go last week. They beat Atlanta. I was worried that they might have a little bit of a downer, but they didn't show that at all this week. But now you got 14 days before you play again. Let's see if they come out here and they're inspired again and they beat the Rams and you win 3 in a row. Because, again, the Rams, to me, are a real team. You come out here and play the Rams after you got beat up by him pretty good last year in L.A., then maybe you could say you do have something. But if Rizzi's doing an interview for his job, he's certainly giving himself a chance. There's no doubt about that. He's off
to a good start. He wore a sharp suit to the interview. First impressions are good.
There's no doubt.
And the players like him. And I mean, like the longer I do this, the older I get, Jim, the more I start to think coaches in professional sports, yes, to a certain extent, you have to be an X's and O's guy. You have to know what you're doing. You have to have enough know-how to command respect. Right. But the biggest thing is, can you be a leader of professional athletes?
Absolutely.
Can you be a leader of men? Can you get them motivated to play?
Which is even harder. It's harder at this level than any other level.
You look at some of the coaches out there, like I think the Dolphins, Mike McDaniel, who the jury's still out on him. That guy is an X's and O's wizard.
No doubt.
But he doesn't. And then you look at Dan Campbell, who I'm not sure. But he leads the guys. They are frothing at the mouth for him. They want to play hard for him. And to me, that's just super important. And I think that's what Darren Rizzi brings.
And, some people like me sometimes can say that it's a little overrated because, Lord knows I've been critical about Dan Campbell. But you can't – the dude keeps doing what he does. And at some point, you got to say, look, players love playing for him if they got the talent. And I think you and I both talked about it. I don't think there was a lack of talent in the room with this team. It was about the scheme and what could they do. And, I thought the offensive game plan, for at least in the first part of this game, was outstanding. Now, it kind of I thought the only thing I had a problem with is I thought Kubiak kind of used all of his tricks early, and it got kind of dull for a little while, but Taysom ended up pulling him through. But look.
And part of that may be McCoy left. I mean, I think he's more willing to do some of that stuff with McCoy in the game.
Maybe so. But if you're Rizzi and you're firing everybody up and you believe in the guys behind you and they're going to call a good game, then yeah, it means a lot. And look, that's what Dan Campbell's doing. He's got – Ben Johnson, and he's got Aaron Glenn, and they're both doing an outstanding job. So Ben Johnson, you can be a guy who just fires up the crowd and goes for it on 4th down and goes for 2 every other time and whatever. And then it works for them. So.
Yeah. let's see here. I lost my train of thought. But after Taysom's 10-yard rush to open the scoring in this one, the Saints actually had a chance to add to that lead. They took a sack that took them out of field goal range, ended up having to punt the ball away, got it back, then Taysom threw an interception. He threw the interception on the deep ball. And the Browns immediately scored an 89-yard pass from Jameis Winston to Jerry Jeudy. They can bust some coverages, by the way, that the Saints defense can from time to time. And Jerry Jeudy took a kind of a medium-length 15 to 20-yard pass, took it all the way to the house. Strange sequence where Saints jump offside on the extra point, and so with the ball moved to the 1-yard line, the Browns decide to go for 2. Winston I guess he wasn't sacked. He threw the ball away, got called for an intentional grounding, so they didn't get the 2-pointer. It's 7-6 Saints, and then they make it 14-6. They get their own long catch and run. Marquez Valdez-Scantling catching a 71-yard touchdown pass from Derek Carr just off to the races. That made it 14-6. That was the score at halftime. Of course, Dustin Hopkins missing that field goal at the end of the half, missing a 32-yarder and then a 27-yarder after the bizarre penalty. I mean, just bad day for the guy, pushing everything to the left. He didn't make a single kick today, by the way. He didn't even try an extra point.
No, and I think that actually had a lot to do with the Browns kind of, they get it to 14-14, and then they have a chance there, and then Hopkins misses the second one. And I think that kind of like they drove all the way down the field, and he missed it from what, 27 yards?
Well, that was to cut it. That would have been to cut it to 14-9 right before half.
Okay,
they did end up tying it, and this honestly was right in this corner end zone where we're standing. Jameis Winston, we can talk more about Jameis, played a hell of a game.
He did.
His best pass of the day was a 30-yard touchdown pass to Elijah Moore.
Yeah, he
just dotted him up in the corner here. Elijah Moore gets both feet down, hits David Njoku, the tight end, on a 2-point conversion. We had a tie game, 14-14, and really it looked like this thing was going to come down to the wire, and the Saints dominate the fourth quarter, Jim. They get Taysom Hill's 33-yard run where he breaks multiple tackles. That was on a 4th-and-1 play. That was with 13:22 left. Derek Carr hits Juwan Johnson for a touchdown to make it 28-14 with 6 minutes left. Browns really their last gasp. They come down into the red zone, a chance to make it a one-score game again. Ended up turning it over on downs, and then Taysom Hill seals the thing with a 75-yard touchdown run. So let's talk about Derek Carr. You mentioned him, 21 of 27. 248 yards, 2 touchdowns, no turnovers. He did fumble once on a sack. He recovered his own fumble, so gets a little lucky there. But this is the Derek Carr the Saints can win with, and the Derek Carr they hoped they were getting.
Yeah, and I told you this upstairs. I really thought that this was the first of his third game back, but I really thought it was the first game where he looked a lot like the Derek Carr that we're used to. You can crack jokes out there if you want to. I know they're going to come probably, but I thought that he looked like his old self today. Especially there were quite a few passes where he rolled out to the left. He escaped pressure by using his mobility. You talk about his athleticism and that people sometimes underestimate his athleticism.
He was a star basketball player in high school before he gave it up his last couple of years of high school, but he's an athlete.
Yeah, well, he was able to roll out to the left and throw kind of across his body to wide open. One time it was Morrow, one time it was Taysom, and he had one other one like that too. On all 3 on third downs. He was excellent on third down today. And look, if I'm given a game ball and I only have one game ball to give, well, I'm giving it to Taysom. But then my second one would be to Derek Carr, because I thought he made a lot of great decisions today. I don't think he forced anything. And look, he was pressured a lot more than I think we realized. We'll go back and look, and we could see the number of pressures, but he got away from all of them. Sometimes he threw it at the feet of Kamara just to escape the pressure, and other times he was able to throw it across somebody wide open 10 yards down the field and just get rid of it.
The one pass I'm thinking Derek might have forced was here in the end zone trying to go to Foster Moreau.
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly. I think it was 21-14 at the time, and he throws the ball up there, and Foster really probably committed offensive pass interference playing defense on that play to keep it from being intercepted. That was the one throw where you're going,
agreed.
But sometimes when you throw downfield, there are risks involved. Agreed. So other than that, Carr very good.
Another pass he threw to Morrow that Morrow got hurt on, and
he caught it, but it was called back.
It was called back as a penalty. Yeah. So, those are some yards that got taken away from him. He easily could have had a 300-yard day. But he was great today.
21 of 27,
Kamara
248
was phenomenal as well. We didn't even get to Kamara, but I thought Kamara was effective when he really needed to be.
Kamara got the tough yards, right? Like, it's weird. Usually Taysom gets the tough yards, and Kamara's the one who has the big numbers. Today was Kamara 16 carries for 67 yards, 4.2 per carry, nothing crazy special. He also caught 4 passes for 22 yards, but just kind of a workman-like 80. Like, I don't feel like the first carry of the game where he made a couple guys miss and got like 13 yards, probably his only real highlight of the day, but just a solid, gives you what you need, 4 yards per carry, make the defense respect it.
Agreed. And look, that's so important. It doesn't really get talked about a lot because Taysom had such a big day, and people probably are fired up about Carr, but I thought Kamara was just as important because of what you talked about and doing things in the trenches and getting through there and getting the tough yards and kind of setting the tone. And when they needed to go to him, they did, and he generally got what they wanted. Some of the average went down because there was a lull in the game where I thought Kubiak, and I talked about how he kind of used all of his tricks early on. There was a lull from like the middle of the second quarter through maybe the third quarter where they were kind of predictable, kind of running the ball up the middle on first down, which I didn't love. Quite a few times did that, and that cut down on Kamara's average, I thought. But overall, he's been so inspired. He is so happy that Dennis Allen's gone. He really is, and he's playing like he played in the beginning of the season when he was just incredible, in my opinion.
Guy wants to be a Saint for life. And by the way, congratulations to Jari Evans, whose name went up in the corner over there into the Saints Ring of Honor, a very special thing that only 12 guys have now.
Not a lot.
Alvin Kamara's name will be up there someday.
For sure.
There's no question about it. And that's the type of player he is. One more note before we switch over to the defense. You mentioned Clint Kubiak kind of being in his bag early in the game, and he did get a little more conservative later. We had a Derek Carr with like a naked bootleg run. We had a Derek Carr in motion while Taysom was the quarterback. We had all sorts of fun stuff. We got some little ones that said Wilson's boys. Just a fantastic array of plays. I thought that not only did they work in this game, but they put something on film that makes the Rams and the Giants and the Commanders, the next teams you face, it makes them kind of respect that.
It's kind of the whole point, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when you put those things out there, make them think about what you're going to do. And look, not to switch gears because we don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but I think it's one thing that LSU hasn't done. I mean, you Garrett Nussmeier will have a chance to run and never does. And so for the Saints, maybe Carr hasn't done it enough or hadn't done it enough. So you put it out there that he's going to do it. So if it's 3rd and 3, you see an end around, you got to find out where the ball is. By the time you find out where the ball is, it might be Kamara going around the other end.
No, that's right. That's right. And I wouldn't be surprised if they throw into Carr at some point. I really wouldn't. On that,
it's going to happen.
He split out wide on all those plays.
Not every time they started covering it. The last few times they did it, but the first 3 or 4 times, you and I have noticed one especially where Taysom, Carr went out in motion, was in the slot with no one else on the right side, and Taysom, had he seen him and had that even been an option, Carr could have caught the ball and gone easily 20 yards. There was no one over there. They didn't take him seriously at all. So
appreciate y'all hanging out with us on the Saints Insider Postgame Show. It's brought to you by the Times-Picayune and Tulane Doctors. If you're hanging out with us, you enjoy the content, hit the like button on our YouTube channel. I always appreciate that. Subscribe to the channel. We're almost at 17,000 subscribers. I think we're like 13 short. So if 13 of you who aren't subscribed, just hit the subscribe button. We'll get there by the end of the day. And into the bye week, we'll have some Saints Insider podcasts for you this week. To switch gears, Jim, and talk about the defense real quick.
Yeah.
443 yards for the Browns. You're not going to say it's a good day. They had the bust on the Judy play.
Right.
Jameis was very good for one thing. I do think the Saints did a good enough job against the run, but clearly this is not the top 10 defense that it was in the past few years. And to me, if I'm looking forward at Saints and saying, okay, can they make a run? Can they get themselves back in the playoff picture? That's still my biggest obstacle for them is defensively.
Well, and there was several times today when I thought Alontae Taylor got beaten. Judy, he seemed to be on Judy a whole lot. And a couple of those plays, the long touchdown, he bit on the play and he tried to cut it. He was a little risky there and ended up turning into a touchdown. If he just plays the ball, he either can possibly make a play or at least Judy's going to be knocked out around the 40-yard line. So, and I'm not just picking on Alontae Taylor. I just saw the defensive backfield as a whole didn't play very well today. Jameis did look, for the most part, I thought Jameis was really good. And I think the majority of Saints fans would say if Jameis is really good, then that means that the defense probably wasn't very good. And I think that's what we can say today. And they just didn't get enough pressure in the backfield.
Yeah, Demario Davis had 13 tackles. He's a guy who
he looked rejuvenated.
Now, I would say there's 2 possibilities here. And one, Demario Davis had an injury earlier in the year.
Yeah.
And we don't know when he came back. How close to 100% was he? How far away? That could be part of it. But it's hard to look at these last 2 weeks and not say that Demario Davis in particular is more motivated with Darren Rizzi
There's
at head coach.
Zero question about it. And, another thing we've been talking about, I've been talking about on Datitude, is I really believe that in the offseason, Mickey or someone set up a meeting, and there's no question in my mind. I think that if you put them on the truth serum or got someone to talk, and you had Alvin Kamara, you had Demario Davis, and you had Tyrann Mathieu sitting in a room with Dennis Allen and Mickey Loomis, and maybe one other person. And they said, look, if you guys buy in to us bringing DA back, then I think that the rest of the team, maybe Derek Carr in there too, if you guys buy in, then everyone else is going to buy in. And they got it to work. And they bought in at first. And I think everything obviously was fine. They went through training camp. It looked like everyone was on the same page. They started the season, everyone was on the same page. But as soon as there was a little rift and then all the injuries, and then you just lost them. And really, to me, Demario Davis was one of the first ones you lost. Because he kind of went MIA, and now he battled an injury bug, but he went MIA for a little while. And if you lose that guy on this defense, you're in a world of hurt. And It's great to see him back playing. And I agree with you. I thought he played maybe his best game of the season today. I thought he was outstanding today.
Also 3 sacks for the Saints, a sack and a half for Carl Granderson, sack and a half for Brian Brzee. I believe Carl Granderson had 1 and Chase Young had the other half a sack, or maybe Cam Jordan may have had half a sack in there too. I have to go back and look. There were 3 sacks total.
Well, the best play was when Chase Young came running on the field late.
Came running on the field.
He came
running. Blows up a screenplay. Just ran on the field and never stopped. Ran right into
He just
Jerome
kept on
Ford.
running. He ran on the field. He wasn't even to the line of scrimmage yet when the ball got snapped. Kept running to the other side of the line and made the play. So
I'm going to check and get this right. Okay. Brian Brzee, a sack and a half. Carl Granderson, 1 sack, and Chase Young, half a sack.
Yeah, I didn't think
there was a play where Cam and Brzee split, and it was for no gain. It was Jameis Winston got back to the line of scrimmage, and so it wasn't technically a sack.
I think you're right.
That's what that was. By the way, second on the team with 9 tackles was Ugo Amadi, so shout out to him. He's done a good job since Marshawn Lattimore was traded and Paulson Adebo's been out. Ugo Amadi playing a lot of snaps and doing a pretty good job. Missed this comment from Stefan, who says, if the Falcons lose today and we beat the Rams in 2 weeks, we make it. I'm not going that far, but I will say the Falcons are down 14-3 right now, late in the second quarter. If they were to lose that game, does that make them 6-5?
Yeah,
6-5, and Saints are 4-7.
Their bye week is next week.
Okay, but
not this week.
Let me just throw a little bit of cold water on that, because it sounds good. You're within 2 games, but even though you split with the Falcons have already clinched the tiebreaker over the Saints. They have 4 division wins. Saints can't get more than 3 because they've already got 3 division losses. So,
bare minimum, Falcons will win in 9 games.
So the Falcons will win the tiebreaker over the Saints. So you're 3 games behind the Falcons with only 6 to play. So let's
the only realistic.
Let's throw a little cold water on that.
I said 0.0, so I guess for me to even say this, there's no realistic chance. But if you're looking for the lesser of 2 possibilities, winning the division is like -%. I'm just going to say that. I mean, I don't care. But wild card, if you even think about having any chance, like you talked about with the teams that the Saints have to play, especially with the Rams, that would be a big deal, beating the Rams, because if you're going to make a run, the Rams are going to be one of the teams that you're going up against. Because when it comes down to that 6th spot, it probably will be a 9-8 team, and it'll come down to a tiebreaker, because there will be multiple 9-8 teams.
Yeah. And by the way, again, you still have to deal with the Bucs in the division too. They're not out of it. And the Falcons end the season with a game against Carolina. I mean, I think they still play the Giants. Can't remember their schedule. They still play Minnesota, but for the most part, it's a fairly easy schedule. I don't think you're catching Atlanta. Best case, maybe you tie them and you would lose.
They already played the Bucs twice. They already played the Saints twice. And then they have the Panthers left.
Yeah, they got the Panthers. It's probably a long shot. Tell you what, we're waiting on our Times-Picayune writers to come out from the locker room, expecting them shortly. We're going to take our second break here on the Saints Insider Postgame Show. Keep hanging out with us, and we'll be back after this.
At Tulane Doctors, we know your health can't wait.
So we made booking appointments easier than ever.
Just dial 988-5000 to book with any physician, any specialty.
Whether at East Jefferson General Hospital or one of our other locations.
Because your health is our top priority.
And because navigating healthcare should be simple,
personal,
accessible.
When you see the shield, you'll know the future of medicine is here.
There's no better place to parlay than Caesars Sportsbook. Parlay Builder gives you all the game day action from all across the league. Multiple games, legs, and props, all in one spot. It's so quick and easy, you can keep your focus on the games and your nachos. Or if you're focusing on one game, remember, you can place your same game parlays live during the action. Caesars Sportsbook, the only sportsbook app with Caesars rewards.
All right, welcome back to the Saints Insider Postgame Show here from the Times-Picayune. We're brought to you by Tulane Doctors. Comment here from Barry. I'm not even going to try your last name, Barry. Barry Ule. All right. Gave up 450, lose a fumble, throw an interception, create no turnovers, and still win by 21. Only the Saints. They've had a lot of games this year where you look at the box score and you go, how did they lose that game? And now they've had a couple in a row where you go, how did they win that game?
We're able to do a lot of research. There's a service that we use called StatHead for a lot of things. And I just couldn't figure out how to use this. But if anyone knows how to look this up, look it up and either find me on X at Jim Derry Jr. or email me at
listen to the Datitude podcast. Just show the
whatever. Or come on the Datitude podcast tomorrow at 11 a.m. But we were trying to figure out if any team has ever, and it's probably happened, but when's the last time it happened? But that a team lost by 18 or more points 3 times in one season and also won by 18 or more points 3 times in the same season. That's got to be rare.
Yeah, and the Saints have done it. They beat the Panthers, Cowboys, and Browns all here. No, Panthers and Browns were here. Cowboys on the road, all by the Panthers were 37-point blowout. Right. They beat the Cowboys by 25. Now they beat the Browns by 21. They have losses of, 24 points to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, then 23 points to the Denver Broncos, 33-10, and then 18 points to the Chargers out in LA, 26-8.
Yeah.
So they have 3 losses. Those were, incidentally, the 3 Spencer Rattler starts.
I could be wrong. Somebody could say, "Oh, it happened last year." I'm like, "Oh, and I'd be okay." But if anyone knows how to find that out, because I could not find it. I'm usually good at finding that stuff. I couldn't find it, but that just seems like an incredible, crazy stats. And like you said, Barry, we'll see you tomorrow morning. He's a member of the Datitude family. It's typical Saints to do stuff like that.
It's probably another situation if the last time that it's happened is where a team lost its quarterback and had to play the backup. I mean, that's the situation where that would happen. And the 3 losses by 18 plus were all Spencer Rattler starts, which, kind of, if you think about it, with Derek Carr as starter,
4-4.
The Saints are 4-4 with a heartbreaking loss to the Philadelphia Eagles and a heartbreaking loss to the Atlanta Falcons.
Should be 6
and a pretty heartbreaking loss to the Carolina Panthers, if we're being honest, too. Like, the only times the Saints have really been handled with Derek Carr at quarterback was in Kansas City.
That's correct. So, I mean, look, again, hate on Derek Carr how you want, but with Derek Carr, this is there's no one that can say any differently. You could say it, but you're lying to yourself or you're just lying, one of the two. But with Derek Carr, it's a completely different football team, and I think a good football team. Not a great football team, but a good football team.
A team where
they don't have any receivers right now.
If you take away all the injuries, everybody has injuries. You can't. I'm not saying that this is fair to do. But, they were good enough, we saw in the first 2 weeks, and we've seen the last 2 weeks. This is good enough to be, if everything kind of goes right for you, a playoff team. The problem is, for 7 games, it was kind of the opposite, where everything went wrong.
Yeah, and look, you're playing without Chris Olave. You're playing without Rashid Shaheed. And Foster Moreau was banged up. He did come back in. But, I mean, look,
and on the other side, Lattimore and Adebo, I mean, your top 2 corners are gone.
I mean, it's fun. I'm not making any excuses for them, not at all, because it's their own fault that they don't have enough depth. That's the front office's fault, if you ask me. So I'm not giving them a pass on it, but I'm just saying that when Derek Carr's in there, especially when I think Eric McCoy, if he gets healthy against the Rams, I give him a legitimate shot. If I had to guess, I would say the line's going to be somewhere around Pick'em.
It'll be less than a field goal either way, right?
It'll be less than a field. Yeah, one way or the other. I think it's going to be probably Pick'em-ish. Saints might be a slight, kind of like they were today.
Rams play Sunday night next week against Philadelphia. So,
that could be a good thing for.
That's not really a short week because it's not a Monday game.
Philadelphia or at home?
It is at home.
Okay. Well,
so it's not like a big travel situation.
But they were on the road this week at New England, so they got to go to New England. They come home, play on a Sunday night, and then come here on it's not a short week, but it's a different.
But considering the Saints will be off the bye,
I
think if we're talking from a gambling perspective, you give the Saints a point or so on a travel advantage or rest advantage.
Yeah, sure. I think the Saints will probably be It depends on what the Rams do next week. But
That's also true.
I mean, because they honestly could have just a one game. It'll be about picking.
By the way, looking at some scores, Panthers and Bucks, looking at NFC South, were both on their bye week this week. So no updates from them. The Falcons, as we mentioned, are down. It's now 14-6, 2:48 to go in the second quarter.
Cortland Sutton.
Broncos are ahead. We've also got 49ers 7, Seahawks 6. And at the end of the first quarter, Bills 6, Chiefs nothing, but the Chiefs have first and goal at the 10. In the early games, one of the games of the day, Steelers beat the Ravens 18-16.
Yes, they did. Best bet of the week.
Lions 52, Jaguars 6. Are they going to let Doug Peterson get back to Jacksonville before they fire him? Or
I mean, look,
52-6.
I'm not saying the Saints are a model for much, but Jacksonville, why wouldn't you use the Saints model and just get rid of this clown? You should have got rid of him.
The Jaguars are on their bye week next week, so I think this is the time. This is the time. Aforementioned Rams, they did go to New England and win 28-22. The Colts came back to beat the Jets 28-27. Jets are probably done.
Speaking of getting rid of people, they're going to get rid of Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. We also have Vikings 23, Titans 13, Dolphins 34, Raiders 19, and the Packers hang on, beat the Bears 20-19 on a missed field goal. Is that a good or bad result for the Saints if they get back in it? Because you start counting wild cards and stuff.
Absolutely a good thing.
The Packers,
they're not going to be in.
You don't think they're catching?
No, I think the Packers are a minimum 10-win team. So I don't think they won't be in any kind of fight with the Packers. So I actually think that's a good thing because you'd be the Bears are definitely one of those teams you could potentially see.
Bears fall to 4-6.
Yeah,
so
that's a good thing for the Saints.
Yeah, I mean, let's look at this real quick. As of right now, the NFC Wild Card picture. Just again, Saints are 4-7. Their logo is not on the TV screen yet when they're talking playoff picture, but
whatever and giggles.
Hey, the Super Bowl's here. Maybe it's for that. We'll see who's going to be in competition to be in New Orleans for the Super Bowl. Your four division leaders right now: Lions would be the number 1 seed, 9-1. Eagles number 2 at 8-2, and then you have a tie. Actually, the Atlanta Falcons, Arizona Cardinals are both 6-4. So I don't know who would own the tiebreaker, but those are your division leaders. Your wild card teams right now would be the Minnesota Vikings at 8-2, Green Bay Packers at 7-3, and the Washington Commanders 7-4.
Oh, I feel even less now that you told me that. I mean,
after that though, there is a drop off. The next team is the 49ers.
The 7th team.
5-4. No, that is 7. That's
right.
Yeah.
4 and
Vikings would be the 5.
Come on.
Packers 6. Commanders 7.
Let's get real.
So Saints have a head-to-head against Washington. Washington has lost 2 games in a row. Could there be kind of a second half swoon for Jaden Daniels? I mean, that's the path, right?
You think this team is going to beat the Commanders?
I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I'm just saying.
What do you?
If we're envisioning a path,
all right, let's be realistic. And I know that a lot of fans. The one called me Negative Nancy. I just like to keep it real. Okay, I'm sorry if you don't like me keeping it real. You're probably one of those people that when they stink and I'd say anything positive, you're probably telling me to be quiet about that too. But let's just say, okay, what are the chances that they win? I guess they only need to win 2 of 3 and then win the rest. But Rams, Packers on the road, Commanders, and then they got to beat the Bucks. So
Bucks on the road.
So they got to win 3 of those
4,
and then win the other ones that they're supposed to win, which is Giants
and Raiders.
Okay, so
and the Giants are on the road. That's a road game.
Look, I mean, the Giants play pretty decent defense. So actually, the Saints.
That's not a gimme. That is not.
I mean, they lost at Carolina, so you can definitely lose it.
Look, when you're the Saints, nothing's a gimme.
No,
exactly. They lost to Carolina.
So, but even if you want to say, okay, let's play the gimme game and give them those 2 that we say are gimmies, which they're not, but let's say they're gimmies, Raiders and Bucks. Okay, that gets you
Raiders
to 6.
And Giants.
I mean, Raiders and Giants. So that gets you to 6 wins. You've got to win 3 out of 4 to even have a chance. That you might not even get in with 9 wins.
No, you may not.
So, but you tell me what the chances are of them beating the 3 of 4 Rams, Commanders, Packers on the road, and Bucks on the road.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just.
You're talking, and we talked about the Rams game.
That's why I said it's 0.0 realistically.
If you're looking at the betting line, the Rams game is realistically a coin flip.
Yeah.
Maybe it's 55-45 one way or the other, but the Commanders game, I think, is a coin flip at best. Probably you're a slight underdog.
They're about a 4 or 5 point dog against Washington. They'd be at least a touchdown dog in Washington here.
Let's see how the teams play over the next 3 weeks. Let's see how
I can tell you right now, they're more than a touchdown dog in Green Bay.
They will be a big dog in Green Bay, and they'll be an underdog in Tampa Bay as well, I would think.
Tampa Bay,
maybe a 3-point underdog.
If it was 3 or 4.
So
you got to win 3 or 4 games where you're a dog in,
or a coin, or essentially a coin flip
exactly.
game. Yeah. The chances are not good, and even as Jim said, if you win those games, You still have to beat the Raiders. You still have to beat the Giants, and you still have to hope you win some kind of 9-8 tiebreaker.
I mean, I could sit here if you want me to. I'm like, yeah, it's really possible. They could do it. Just think. They match up well with the Packers. I mean, if you want me to say that, I will.
Hope is a powerful drug, my man.
It is. Well, my favorite commercial of all time. I hate the Astros. I said this a few weeks ago. I can't stand the Houston Astros, but the best commercial of all time, it's probably 15, 20 years ago. That Jeff Bagwell, and he's going, without hope, life is meaningless. And he's right. So
that's
there
right.
you go.
No, and at minimum, what the Saints have done is they've given their fans hope through the bye week. They can continue to dream. They
People
can
will
continue
come
to
to
have
the
these
stadium.
conversations. And I think the crowd will be pretty juiced up for that Rams.
Speaking of the crowd, what's a good reason that the Saints won it? Well, besides the fact the Saints won. But if you want to find a secondary reason, there were a lot of Browns fans here today.
You heard some barking and stuff when they scored their touchdowns.
The Browns, and when it got to be 14-14, that was one of the 2 or 3 times I really heard them. But if the Browns had taken the lead and they'd have been super loud, it would have been embarrassing. We would have talked about it, I promise you. It would have been a big deal. There were a lot. And, I mean, you could just see the jersey. And when I was walking into the stadium this morning from my parking spot through the parking lot and up here, I saw at least as many Browns fans as I saw Saints fans.
We talked about this on the Saints Insider this week, where especially AFC teams that don't get to come down here a whole lot, and also
that happens a lot.
Cold weather cities late in the year where you get a chance to get out of. I mean, I don't know what the weather's like in Cleveland.
Yeah, but they probably made this trip.
They don't know what it might be snowing. Like, even if it's 42 in Cleveland right now and sunny, it was 72 and sunny in New Orleans. It's like, hey, you want to take a trip to New Orleans, make a long weekend out of it? Hell yeah, I do.
Absolutely.
I mean, so we've seen it with the Lions last year. We saw it with the Bills a couple years ago. These AFC,
we saw it with Denver a few weeks ago.
Yeah, Lions are an NFC team, but you get my point. Like, especially the non-division teams coming from those northern climes.
There were a ton of Denver fans.
They love to come to New Orleans and make a long weekend of it. And it is embarrassing to lose those games. And you heard a little bit of the dog barking when Judy scored his touchdown, and Jameis was kind of dealing.
Thank God that didn't last long.
You heard that, but they didn't have a lot to bark about in the fourth quarter. So 35-14, the Saints win. Still waiting on our writers from the locker room. I guess the Saints are in a talkative mood today, Jim.
I think Rizzy's a talk. You don't think he clogged the toilet today, do you?
You have to do it out of superstition, right?
I mean,
can you do it on command? It's like,
I don't know.
Put a baby wipe in there or something?
I can't wait to hear what he clogged up today. I mean, whatever he did, it worked. Keep doing it, baby. Do it against the Rams December 1st. Make sure you eat a lot on Thanksgiving.
That is a good sign that it's time to take our third break. This is the Saints Insider Postgame Show. It's brought to you by Tulane Doctors. We will be back live from the Caesars Superdome right after this.
At Tulane Doctors, we know your health can't wait.
So we made booking appointments easier than ever.
Just dial 988-5000 to book with any physician, any specialty.
Whether at East Jefferson General Hospital or one of our other locations.
Because your health is our top priority.
And because navigating healthcare should be simple,
personal,
accessible.
When you see the shield, you'll know the future of medicine is here.
There's no better place to parlay than Caesars Sportsbook. Parlay Builder gives you all the game day action from all across the league. Multiple games, legs, and props, all in one spot. It's so quick and easy, you can keep your focus on the games and your nachos. Or if you're focusing on one game, remember, you can place your same game parlays live during the action. Caesars Sportsbook, the only sportsbook app with Caesars rewards.
Welcome back to the Saints Insider Postgame Show, live here from the Caesars Superdome. Zach Ewing along with Jim Derry. Still waiting on our guys. It has been almost an hour since the postgame started.
Time in there.
The Saints are talking a lot today, man, and our writers are soaking it all in, so we're going to get the word from them about what happened today. I do have a comment here. Spencer sent this one 7 minutes ago, and I missed it. But Donetta Calhoun, if you're still tuned in, this is your comment. Carr is not a Super Bowl QB. He's not a playoff-winning QB. Carr needs to be gone along with his favorite coach, D.A. I feel like this was Was this like a cousin of yours or something who's just teeing you up and trying to rile you up, Jim? Because I feel like this is just meant to rile you up.
Donetta has been on my show before, and lots of people like to rile me up, but I don't think that's meant to rile me up. I think that not only does she believe that, but I think there's a lot of people out there that believe that. And I mean, how many times can you say the same thing? Name me. I mean, who do you want? Who do you want out there? Like, who would make Saints fans happy? And the answer is nobody.
They wanted to draft Caleb Williams.
Mahomes.
Look how well he's doing.
Yeah, let's get Caleb Williams. That would have worked out well. Let's go get Saints should have had the first pick a couple years ago. They could have got Bryce Young. Oh, that would have worked out great. I mean, who do you want?
Yeah.
I don't understand it. I mean,
look, Derek Carr is not perfect.
No.
He has never won a playoff game, although I will say the best team he ever played for was his third season in the NFL. The Raiders were 12-3 or 11-4, and he broke his leg and did not get to play in the playoffs. So
you don't want to know the worst thing I can say about Derek Carr, and I completely mean this. He's better than average. That is the worst thing that I can say about Derek Carr. He's better than average. So, and you can come up with any stat you want or whatever, and I know there are people that hate Carr out there, but remember all the Spencer Rattler lovers? Where are they now? Are they in the chat saying we should start Spencer Rattler? Why don't we see? Let's sit Derek Carr next week. Not going anywhere. Let's start Spencer Rattler. Let's see how that works out.
We lost. Spencer lost his internet, so we're not going to be able to show comments right now.
Just mention Spencer Rattler.
Not Spencer. Spencer Urquhart, our producer, lost his internet. So if you're commenting, we're not going to be able to show it right now because we don't have anybody doing it. But Spencer. Spencer Rattler may end up being fine for what he is.
Spencer Rattler,
he's 0-3 as
he's going to be a backup. One day he'll be a backup in the UFL. Maybe you'll get a chance to see him play there. I doubt it, but maybe.
What are you're wearing your Arena Bowl 21?
I am wearing my Arena Bowl
honor of
shirt.
Spencer Rattler. Is it?
Well, if maybe he'll play Arena League one day. I don't know. He's actually better. Arena League's going downhill these days. But I just it bothers me because people just don't want to give Carr a chance. They just don't. They think he's not Drew Brees. Okay. Drew Brees is gone. He's never coming back. He's not Drew Brees. And I get you want a Mahomes, you want a Lamar Jackson, you want a guy who can be MVP one day. But, those guys don't grow on trees. You don't just go out and get them. It doesn't work that way. I mean, look at all the money that the Jags spent on Trevor Lawrence. That's worked out really well for them. I mean, it's just, quarterbacks are tough, man.
It's
because
hard.
unless you're top notch, unless you're in the top 3, 4, or 5, I mean, fans are going to blame stuff on you.
And I sort of understand. By the way, Spencer is back now, so if you are showing comments and questions, he can show them live again. It's hard, and I heard your discussion. I think it was yesterday's podcast with Larry Holder, former Times-Picayune writer, and now works for The Athletic, and the discussion was, are there 10 quarterbacks better than Derek Carr in the NFL? And this is the interesting part to me because I get the spirit of Donetta's question. The spirit, look, he's never won a playoff game. The point is to win the Super Bowl, right? Like the point of doing this, of rooting and cheering and hoping and all that, is to one day have it pay off with a Lombardi trophy. Okay, I get that.
The point is to have a chance to win the Super Bowl. Not necessarily
the question is, could you do that with Derek Carr? And to me, my answer is yes, if you had a great team around.
Correct.
You have to have a great team around.
If this team had the receivers they had from week 1, with the Detroit Lions offensive line, which obviously they do not have, and their defense from like 3 years ago, then I think this would be a Super Bowl caliber and a real coach. Then I think this team would be a Super Bowl caliber.
Doesn't mean you're going to win it.
Correct.
But you're there.
But Derek Carr, I'll say this, and I've said this multiple times. I don't know why Derek Carr chose New Orleans. I mean, maybe because of Dennis Allen, maybe not. But he came to a place that the offensive line wasn't good when he got here, and it clearly wasn't going in the right direction. And this team did nothing to solve the problem. And he just came from a team that had a horrendous offensive line. So I don't know why he chose New Orleans in the first place.
I don't know that he had a ton of choices. But
he could have gone to the Jets, and he would have been much better off going there.
Derek Carr is 34 years old. He's only got probably a couple years left of playing at this level. You never know. But the Saints, look, it's a long path to having a competitive roster. Here's our guys, by the way. It looks like Jeff.
Saints will get. By the way, Saints will get their way. I mean, Saints fans will get their way because I think either if they want to just blow things up, will be next year. If not, it'll be the year after.
All right. With that, you can listen to Jim discuss that on Data 2
tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow morning at 11 a.m.
We probably won't talk about that.
Check it out. But we're going to let him go, and we're going to bring in Jeff Duncan here, who is fresh from the Saints locker room. Nearly an hour in the locker room, guys. They must have had a lot to talk about, Jeff.
Yeah, it was pretty happy group of players, as you can imagine. I mean, big win like that, and a lot of career highs, talking to Taysom Hill for a while about all of his
I'm watching
exploits.
Jim and Doug Mouton. Doug started Taysom Hill in fantasy against Jim today, so that's what's going
hilarious.
on there.
Yeah, and Derek Carr, obviously it's a very ebullient locker room right now. Players got a big bye week coming up. They go into it with a ton of momentum after 2 big wins, and the mood change in this team from just a few weeks ago, it's like night and day right now. And you could just sense not just I think the happiness, but also a little bit of a relief for this team that they're finally kind of getting back to the team we saw earlier in the year when they started 2-0, and everything just kind of went downhill from there.
Let's talk about Taysom Hill, because we've known, as people close to this team for a long time, that he's a unique player in the truest sense of the word. I mean, he can do things no other player can do, a combination of things. And we saw it today. I mean, he threw passes, one for an interception, one for a completion. He caught 8 passes. He returned a kickoff 42 yards. And then he ran for 138 yards, including 3 touchdowns. He dominated the fourth quarter of this game that the Saints won 21-0. He had a 33-yard touchdown run and a 75-yard touchdown run in the fourth quarter. This was his pièce de résistance. This was the Taysom Hill game.
Yeah, and I think we were just talking to him about it. I mean, Darren Rizzi compared him to Red Grange. He said he didn't he didn't know if he.
I mean, he's not wrong.
Well, he said, look, I don't even know if my players on the team know who Red Grange is, but he said that's how far back I have to go to find someone with this type of versatility, multi-talented player. He's very rare. I mean, I don't know if there's anybody else in the league that could do the things he could do. I mean, a lot of people have compared him over the years to, say, like a Tim Tebow. But the difference is, I mean, he's built like Tim Tebow, but he's much faster. And I think that's what's kind of lost on people, is just how fast he is. And we saw that on the long run today. He outran the entire secondary for the Browns. He's just a rare combination of size, speed, and you can tell how beloved he is by his teammates, just the reaction from his teammates. He's a kind of a quiet, humble, selfless guy. And Derek Carr was speaking to just the mental approach that he has to have every week. We saw him used way more today than he's been used all year, but he has to prepare every week as if he's going to get that same type of usage. And to be able to mentally process all of the responsibilities he has as the different positions that he plays is very rare as well. In addition to all the physical talent he has, I think his mental football IQ is off the charts. And I think that breeds a lot of confidence from his teammates when they know he's in the game. He makes an impact not only on the defense, but also lifting his teammates up as well, opening things up because defenses have to account for him.
Just an amazing player. But Barry says, by the way, I believe Taysom being out injured cost the Saints 2 wins at least. I mean, one player, it's hard to make that case for a non-quarterback, but he's obviously very important to the offense. By the way, did you cover Red Grange or did you just miss him?
No, I just missed him. Yeah, he just retired when I started.
Okay.
Yeah,
but Jeff's old, but not quite that old.
Look,
so.
I was going to say, he very similar, I think, in a lot of ways to Jim Brown in that he's a big power guy. He's built a lot like Jim Brown was. They were playing the Cleveland Browns. I grew up being a Cleveland Browns fan in Louisville, Kentucky. So Jim Brown was kind of he was before my time. I know that might be hard to believe, but he was the ultimate warrior. And I think in a lot of ways, I really believe Taysom Hill is underappreciated league wide.
He ought to make a Pro Bowl or something before.
Yeah,
I mean, he really should.
I mean, I really think he's going to be I'm on the Saints Hall of Fame committee. I mean, I think he's going to have to make the Saints Hall of Fame when his career's up, and yet his numbers total wise are not going to really match up. But just what he does from a versatility standpoint, being able to affect the game in so many different ways, it's unprecedented, and I don't think anybody should take it for granted because we're never going to see another guy like this.
I will say this, a few more games like today and the totals will add up. Kind of moving along, Derek Carr, 21 of 27, 248 yards passing, a couple touchdowns. He did have the one near turnover. He fumbled on a sack and was able to get back on top of it, which could have completely turned this game on its head, by the way. But very efficient performance from Derek.
Yeah, he's playing better and better every week. He said he's playing with more confidence right now. And I think we're seeing when this team can run the ball, it really balances out the offense. He doesn't have to do too much. And he also made some big-time throws today. I mean, DeMario Davis was talking about how well he threw on the run, moving out of the pocket. That's something that Derek Carr has not done that well all year. Today, he made a lot of plays using his feet, getting outside the pocket, rolling out. And I thought kind of had the Browns on their heels all day long. He was throwing down the field on intermediate routes, and he's playing extremely well. When he plays this well, this team's very hard to stop because now they've got the offensive line back mostly intact. They're able to run the ball now with Kamara and Hill, and we're starting to see the formula that Clint Kubiak wanted all along, but those plans got derailed by all the injuries.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And bottom line, Zach Ewing visiting with Jeff Duncan here on the Saints Insider Postgame Show. Bottom line, Jeff, the team gets some momentum going into the bye week. Darren Rizzi has clearly given them the bump in energy, momentum, as well as a return to health that they hoped. Saints are 4-7. I don't think Jim and I have been talking about. I don't think you can say they're back in the playoff hunt yet, but clearly they're in a good place going into the bye week.
Yeah, and I think there's two things going on here. One, I think they're playing with a lot more enthusiasm and effort and energy, and I think that's directly attributed to Darren Rizzi. I mean, players in there talked about how he connects. I thought it was interesting. Derek Carr said he knows how to connect and motivate the modern era player. I thought that was interesting. Derek's been in the league 11 years, so this is a different generation that he's talking about. I think that's something that's very real, that he's able to get some of these younger players that maybe we're not connecting with Dennis Allen. They're playing for Darren Rizzi. So that's one factor. And then the other thing is, I think along with that, the focus that the team has now, because they have some confidence, they're seeing that the page has kind of been turned. They are executing very well. We're not seeing a lot of the sloppiness. I mean, there's still some mistakes. They had a couple turnovers today, but you see the other team folding in the key moments. And I think the Saints are executing at a high level because they have greater focus right now. They're playing with greater confidence, and it's kind of just spreading throughout the team. It's infectious right now, and they go into the break. You could argue they might be a bad time for a bye week because they're playing so well. But I think this team needs to rest up. I mean, it's a very late bye week. Get healthy. And they're certainly going to come back, I think, really raring to go. And we don't know what – by the time they get back on the field, this thing might be even closer. Yeah. I mean, no one's running away with this division.
Falcons are losing right now in Denver. So
that's what I mean. It could be a 2-game difference. And the way this team's playing right now, I think they certainly can't be counted out.
All right, he's Jeff Duncan. We'll let him get to writing, and we'll bring on our next Times-Picayune writer. The guys are discussing amongst themselves who's coming on next. It looks like it'll be Luke Johnson, one of our NOLA.com beat writers for the Saints. Luke, welcome to the Saints Insider Postgame Show.
Thank you for having me.
After a long visit to the locker room, it sounds lots to say.
It wasn't even in the locker room. I was just at the podium today. People had a lot to say about today's game. There's a lot of weird stuff to break down from the game. Taysom Hill had a tungsten Armo Doyle game.
If y'all don't get that reference, you're not on Twitter enough.
Yeah, I'm probably too online. Pete Werner, apparently, Darren Rizzi was just being quiet about Pete Werner's injury all last week, saying it was just a hand deal. Demario Davis comes out and says he broke his hand, had major surgery on it, put a club out there, and showed Walker, Texas Ranger toughness.
Balled out.
Yeah, obviously a lot of stuff about Taysom Hill. This is Taysom time.
You've been waiting for this. Luke, for those who don't watch the Saints Insider podcast, and by the way, we're on every Wednesday and Friday. What are you waiting for? Taysom, we don't play favorites or anything, but you just love the idea of Taysom Hill.
I do. And today was that idea come to life. Right? This is and this was going to be the focus of my story after the game. It's this is maybe not the numbers, right? And maybe you can't be expecting 140 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns and a 40-yard kick return and career high in receiving, but the usage. This is what we were expecting at the beginning of the year. When he's in Clint Kubiak's offense, he's playing a fullback, he's playing running back, he's playing tight end, he's playing receiver, he's playing a little quarterback. We're okay, Taysom's going to be a major part of the offense, and he's not just going to be the 6, 7, 8 touch guy anymore. Yep. Obviously, injuries happen. That hasn't come to fruition until today, and it was awesome. Taysom Hill is such an awesome football player, and it wasn't all good, obviously, today. He threw an interception.
Lost a fumble.
He lost a fumble, a crucial fumble inside the 5-yard line. But man, he made up for it. And when he's going, he is just there are not any players like him. I wrote that story before the season started. What he does at age 34 is really, really legitimately rare
from a sports science,
physical sports science standpoint. Yes, what Taysom Hill is as a football player is rare. Physically speaking, he is a rare human being. He does stuff on this team physically that other guys can't do at 34. So it was really cool to see the Saints able to take advantage of it today because he is so different and fun.
If you count up all of his touches, including the passes, he had 17 touches today. Part of that may be like going into a bye week, you can maybe get him a little more bruised up than normal.
I mean, maybe, but like, you know, I don't know. Like they got to be smart about it, obviously. Yeah. Like he had two pretty significant injuries in span of 2 games played for him. So they've got to take their chances with it, or be smart with it, I guess is the wording they used after the game. But look, he can do some crazy stuff, and I don't think you get to see the crazy stuff as much if it's a touch here or there. You're getting the ball 1 time on a drive or 2 times on a drive. Like that touchdown run was set up by Taysom Hill just kind of getting into the rhythm and flow of the game, and he's really a special player.
Speaking of injuries and recovering from them, Eric McCoy held out. It sounds like it was more of a precautionary thing with the groin. What's your take on that?
No idea with that. Darren Rizzi, for as forthcoming as he is about a lot of stuff, injuries are not one of them. So he was just saying, I don't know what the deal is with Eric McCoy. He kind of made a reference to maybe there was a chance he could come back in the game today, but he also said he didn't know specifically what his injury was. We don't know if it's an aggravation of the same groin injury that put him on IR. We don't know. Rod might be a better person to talk to about that because he actually got McCoy in the locker room. Okay. But it sounds like Eric was kind of not really answering forthright on the injury either.
We will ask Rod about that. Obviously, it's early. They may not truly know yet what the deal is or the extent of it too. True. So, bottom line, Luke, Saints are 4-7. They go into their bye week with some momentum. As I said to Jeff, I don't know that you can say they're back in the playoff picture yet, but they've at least given themselves something to keep playing for here.
But 6 games back, they might be, or 6 games left, they might be 2 games back in the division after today if the score in Denver holds up. They still got a division game left against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So, who knows? I mean, they're not out of it at all. They're still a 4-7 football team. They won today by 21 points, but it was against now a 2-8 football team, and it was a close game in the fourth quarter. So, I don't think anybody can just say that this is a Saints team that's back.
Yeah. I'm not going to go run the table.
But shoot, man, it's a lot more fun. It's a lot of fun. And I think Rizzy's pressing the right buttons right now. He's got these guys motivated. I think I heard Jeff saying it, but I think it was worth pointing out that somebody said he connects to the younger generation of players. Something I don't know if Dennis did that well. Guys are bought in. For right now, that looks like a team that's 2-0 with him under the helm. We'll see how it goes the rest of the season, but it's been refreshing to see these last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, we said it before. I don't know. No matter how good of an X's and O's coach you are, how good of a defensive coordinator you are, in the NFL, you have to be a motivator of men. And we're looking at some motivated men.
Yeah, I think so. All
right, he's Luke Johnson. You can read his work. He's going to write a Taysom Hill story that you'll want to read. It'll be up later on the website.
Love writing
tomorrow's Times-Picayune. He's going to do it. And with that said, we'll bring on Matthew Paris, our other NOLA.com Saints beat writer. Handoff made. The mesh point was strong there. Mesh point, Taysom Hill to Alvin Kamara.
Sure.
Hold it back. This is Luke says he gets to be Taysom Hill. You mentioned something interesting, I thought, on Friday's podcast, Matt, where you kind of came to this beat about a year ago, a little over a year ago now, and said you didn't really get the Taysom Hill thing or buy into it, and we'd never seen a game like this before, but you did say, I kind of see what people are talking about now, and this was the upside of that.
Absolutely. I mean, he's just an effective player, the way that you can use him in a variety of different ways. It just, from the outside, it seems strange. Why would you waste 10 to 15 plays a game away from your starting quarterback or your starting running back when you could just go to those guys? Well, you do that because he's very effective. Yep. And that's, even if the stats are great today, but even when the stats aren't great, he's still effective.
He can be a blocker. He can draw defense's attention, all that sort of stuff. So, but today, 7 carries for 138 yards and 3 touchdowns. And he caught 8 passes for 50 yards. Threw 2 passes. I mean, all these things. Luke mentioned tungsten arm O'Doyle. I mean, it's just one of those things that you just don't. We had Jeff out here talking about Red Grange and Jim Brown, and he's such a throwback player, but also used in kind of a modern way. So much fun. On the other side of the ball, the Saints defense, I thought they're playing motivated. They still gave up 443 yards. Jameis Winston looked really good today at times, I thought, and kind of carved them up. But there's just something a little bit different about they didn't force any turnovers today, but when it came down to big downs, they had guys make plays.
Yeah, I thought this was a good day for the old guys. I thought Cam Jordan was pretty effective on the defensive line. Had that throw, he forced that throwaway on that 2-point conversion. Demario Davis had that. He had that 4th down stop where he exploded through that gap and made the stop there. So I thought they looked pretty good. The secondary in general, I'm a little concerned about still. Alontae Taylor I thought was a particularly rough game. And then so we'll see, but I think the biggest difference was the emphasis to finish after the game had not gone their way, particularly when the Browns tied it in the third. Kind of expected them to fold, and they didn't do that, and credit to them for not.
Yeah, and that again, we talked about it last week. Tyrann Mathieu saying after the Alvin Kamara drop, like, hey, 3 weeks ago we would have lost that game. It kind of feels like after the Browns went on this 92-yard touchdown run, and it kind of feels like 3 weeks ago they might have lost this game too.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, also I think it helps that the Browns are the Browns. I mean, this is what I'm trying to. This is the question I'm asking myself after this game, because I thought they looked pretty impressive today, but I thought they looked very impressive after that 2-0 start, beating the Panthers and the Cowboys. And now it's easy to look back at those games and say, like, oh, those were weak opponents. Now, here they are, have won 2 straight again. Is it they've looked good or weak opponents? And I mean, I don't know if they would be a 10-7, 9-8 team when fully healthy. I predicted them to be 9-8 before the year, but I do think they're capable of playing good football at times, and they've shown that recently.
So with that said, they go into the bye week at 4-7, having won both games under Darren Rizzi. First part of the question is, how much closer is Darren Rizzi to being seriously considered to be the permanent head coach here? It's just 2 games, but he's basically a quarter of the way through his audition now, 2 out of 8, and it couldn't be a whole lot better at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's done a really nice job getting this team to rally, and he's emphasized the right things for them. But if you're asking me, is he going to be the coach next year? I think it's way too soon. Even though he's still a quarter of a way, you don't know what other coaches are necessarily going to be available on the market, how many job openings you're fighting for other teams with. Like, tell me what the market is before deciding whether to go with your interim or not. I mean, Derek Carr loves to bring up Rich Bisaccia, and with the Raiders in 2021, they went 7-5 with their interim. He wasn't brought back. Maybe they should have, but that's kind of where I need to see. I mean, if they rally and make the playoffs and they win out, sure.
I think you have to.
You have to. But barring that, I mean, I just think there's going to be some pretty interesting candidates, and you have the opportunity to change directions here, and I kind of think they should take it, but that doesn't diminish anything that Darren Rizzi's doing. I think he's doing a hell of a job.
Yeah, so far he isn't. And the second part of that question is 4-7. We don't know. The Falcons are losing at halftime. We don't know what the Rams are going to do next week and what record they come in here at. But you at 4-7, you're kind of just now back on the fringe of this playoff race. They have the head-to-head with the Rams. 2 weeks after that, they have a head-to-head with the Commanders, then a head-to-head with the Packers. Like, they're still playing some of these teams they'll be fighting for wild card berths with. Do you think there's a legitimate path here? Are we still talking total long shot range?
I would lean toward total long shot range, but as I glanced at my phone and saw that the Broncos were destroying the Falcons, I might have been discounting how bad the NFC South is. So never that out. I mean, that would be their path, right? Is everyone finishes
and they can get to 9-8.
Yeah. Or tiebreaker wise, that doesn't really.
Yeah, I don't know about a 3-way tiebreaker, but directly with the Falcons, they would lose the tiebreaker.
Okay.
The Falcons have already won 4 division games. Saints have already lost 3, so that's
okay.
Yeah, that would win that tiebreaker. I don't know about a 3-way tie with Tampa, but I'm going to assume since Atlanta swept Tampa, they probably win that too.
Well, anyway, I mean, heck, they might be 8-9 and Atlanta and Tampa Bay, but it's 7-10. I mean, you'd have to see a total collapse by the Falcons, but. I mean, heck, your son was playing with the playoff machine the other day. We should have him on.
He was playing with the ESPN playoff machine and got the Saints in the playoffs at 8-9 as a wild card, winning some crazy tiebreak. I mean, it was you know how that works. With 6 weeks left, you can set the results you want. It doesn't make it likely.
I'll have to have him show me though, because that might be a little bit more realistic after today.
It might be. All right, he's Matthew Paris, our beat writer. He's writing the game story today. You can check that out on NOLA.com. And with that said, we'll have him hand off to Rod Walker, our last guest on today's postgame show, Times-Picayune columnist. Am I getting too far off screen here? Okay, here we go. Rod, we were told you were the Eric McCoy injury update guy. You talked to Eric. He didn't have a whole lot to say, I guess.
Yeah, he didn't say much, but he just said, I was asking about how to feel just to even be back, and he was excited about it. He was like, I just got to be able to finish games. And he said, hopefully I'll be good to go for LA. I mean, he seemed like he'd be fine, but who knows?
It seemed like more of a general soreness, like coming back from surgery. I mean, anybody who's had surgery knows like that can kind of linger.
Yeah, and I remember seeing the play when he went down and got up kind of slowly, and the next play was a touchdown pass, and next thing we know, he was going to the tent. So, definitely some stuff still lingering, I guess, from that. So we'll have to see. It's a good time for a bye for this team for sure.
Yeah, Saints have their bye. I'll ask you what I asked everybody else. Taysom Hill, we all knew he had this in him. We talk about it all the time. This is the game you got to get Taysom more involved. I mean, they made a point from the beginning of almost forcing Taysom the ball. I mean, he was getting carries, he was getting receptions, he was playing quarterback. I mean, everything from the start. And it paid off immediately. He got the touchdown run, but it really paid off in the fourth quarter. Why was that the plan today, and why did it work so well, you think?
I don't know. It was good to see it, though, but this is something that I don't know if his body can just handle this for 17 games. And I think you almost have to kind of pick your spots, and you find these teams that you really like that matchup against. And I think today was just one of those games where they really they really liked it. Now, there'll be some games, down later on down the road we won't see them as much. And I think this is just one of those perfect matchups, and it worked to perfection.
Derek Carr, Alvin Kamara, really offense humming. Marquez Valdez-Scantling took a short pass and took it for a 71-yard touchdown run. I mean, this was a game, and I'm thinking back to those first 2 weeks, and you try not to have recency bias, but I thought certainly the Saints' best offensive game since then, and maybe overall looking at balance and everything, maybe their best of the season.
Yeah, I think it's pretty incredible if you watch what they're doing now with what they're so limited at receiver, and for them to be able to move the ball if they can. I think Carr's playing some of his best ball. Numbers-wise, I don't know. I can't remember how many yards he finished with today, but I think he's playing really well. He's really distributing the ball. They're using the tight ends a lot. Foster Moreau had a good game. Juwan had a good game, and then MBS had the big touchdown, another big splash play by him. So they're doing a really good job of just distributing the ball. Somebody in the press conference, it was DeMario, I asked him about Derek Carr, and he sort of said, he's like our Rajon Rondo. He's a guy that just a point guard that's kind of doing the right things right now. And that's kind of what we're seeing from him.
DeMario must have been in his bag today. He had the Rajon Rondo reference. He had a Walker, Texas Ranger reference about Pete Werner. I mean, DeMario played a heck of a game himself, 13 tackles. He seems to have renewed energy. I don't know if that's health, coaching change, rejuvenating him. I mean, but this defense seems to be, they're not great, but they're flying around a little bit more.
Yeah, because they gave up a bunch of yards today, but, I mean, they held them to 14 points, which, I mean, this is Cleveland that they're only averaging like 16 points anyway. They
couple missed field goals.
Yeah, they don't score anyway. But, I mean, the defense is doing just kind of what they have to do. They came up with some big plays late. They had the big sack on I would say Cam Newton on Jameis Winston, and I mean they're playing better, and they've gotten as healthy as they're going to get, pretty much. I mean, so you have to like that.
I got to ask you about Jameis, because you wrote the column on Jameis Winston on Friday. You can check it out at NOLA.com if you didn't see it. I think for a lot of Saints fans, it's probably exactly what they wanted. A Saints win. But Jameis played really well. I mean, they didn't want him to come in here and throw 4 interceptions or anything like that, and he didn't. He looked really good at different times. His touchdown throw to Elijah Moore was an absolute dime, and he kind of showed why he still makes people wonder what he could be.
Yeah, I think he's a guy that, a lot of people are kind of written him off, and I think what 2 out of these 3 games he's played for them that he's been a starter, he's played well. And I think he's probably done enough that, next year somebody's going to give him a shot to be a starter, I feel like. I think he's done enough. And just talking to the guys in the locker room, Derek Carr and DeMario, they were glad to see Jameis play well. They really liked him as a teammate. You could tell it's genuine when they say it. They're not just saying it because he's a teammate. I mean, they really like Jameis a lot as a person, not just as a player, but as a person. And they've kind of watched him grow, and you can tell that they really appreciate what they're seeing out of him.
All right, we've been on the air now for well over an hour. Going to wrap things up on the Saints Insider Postgame Show. We appreciate everybody hanging out with us. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We're 13 subscriptions short of 17,000 on our Saints on NOLA.com YouTube channel. So be one of those 13. Help us get to 17K, and we'll have more podcasts later this week. We're going to wrap things up, Rod Walker. Where is this team going into the bye week? I mean, it's hard to put your finger on, is this a contender? Is this just a little 2-game blip that was a reprieve from this disastrous losing streak? What's your sense on where this team is into the last 6 games?
I think they're better than they were. I don't think we really have a good gauge on them. I don't think we will until they play the Rams. I think that'll be a really good test, and we'll see if this team is for real. They won last week, and just kind of we talked about the energy boost they got, and today they beat a team that's not very good. I mean, if you're being honest, the Browns,
2-8,
they're 2-8 for a reason. So I think the Rams game after the bye will be a good gauge for this team. We'll know a little bit more. They're still in the hunt, though. They're not eliminated, so that's, you got something to play for.
They will be going into December with at least a mathematical chance of the playoffs. So next post-game show will be December 1st after the Rams game. We'll catch you all then. We'll have Saints Insider podcasts on Wednesday and Friday during the bye week as well. We don't take the week off. We will be back with some Saints Insider podcasts. So check those out and check us out at NOLA.com/Saints. Spencer Urquhart was our producer, our comment moderator. Norman Bell manning the camera and producing for us. And our thanks to Jim Derry, Luke Johnson, Jeff Duncan, Matthew Paris, and Rod Walker. I'm Zach Ewing. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.